Someone who will not be at WrestleMania 41 is Ricochet. Ricochet made what looks to be his final appearance on WWE television on Raw last Monday after giving his notice, reportedly giving his notice that he plans to leave the company when his contract is up, which is believed to be sometime in July. PW Insider says there has been talk internally of trying to maximize all of the talk around Ricochet by possibly bringing him back for one more appearance between now and then, maybe a match even with Braun Breaker. Because, I mean, technically they still have Ricochet under contract for a month, few weeks. I mean, however many weeks is left. They could still use him if they want him to. They could say, hey, yeah, you got to come to work. We got a plan for you. But for now, Monday was planned to be his final appearance. Monday has to be his final appearance. That entire angle was designed to be his send-off, and I thought it was well done. You know, Ricochet was in a few segments on the show. It all ended, though, with him in the back. He was helping Ilya Dragunov in the back. After Dragunov lost to Braun Breaker, they had an excellent match. Breaker speared Dragunov into an equipment case. He came out of nowhere. And now Breaker and Ricochet are fighting. They fight their way out into the parking lot. And Braun Breaker proceeds to lawn dart Ricochet headfirst into the side of a production truck that had Hulk Hogan and Jimmy Hart's face plastered on the side of it. So this was very reminiscent of Rey Mysterio being lawn darted by Kevin Nash into the side of a trailer in WCW. The only difference is this time, Ricochet took a hell of a bump to the concrete. I mean, he had a long way to fall after he got lawn darted, and it made a thud when he hit the ground. But he was selling the hell out of this attack, and Breaker then picked him up off the ground, ended up driving him. He power slammed him onto a car windshield. And officials and referees, they tried to get Breaker away. You know, Ricochet is laying there in the rubble, and he's saying, I can't breathe, and he's writhing in pain. And I said this on Monday night, because again, you know, as with a lot of things these days, there's a lot of divided opinion. But I thought that if you're going to go out, and that's what this was. I mean, this was a write-off. If you're going to go out, that's the way you want to go out. Right? You don't want to go out some boring fucking way. You want to go out this way. You get lawn darted into the side of a truck. You get power slammed onto a windshield, right? And even better, use it as a way to get Braun Breaker over as more of a monster than ever before. Because Braun is staying. Ricochet is not. Braun is the one that you want to get over. But they didn't bury Ricochet. I didn't look at this as a burial. Again, that word gets thrown around far too cavalierly by so many people who don't really understand what it means. This is how you send somebody off on their way and use it as a way to benefit somebody else. Ricochet stood his ground against Braun Breaker. First of all, if it was just a case where Ricochet came out and just got killed, you know, that would be different. Ricochet was in a backstage segment with Ilya Dragunov. And after Ilya's match, Ricochet came from, I don't even know where the fuck he came from. I mean, it's like they cut to a different camera shot. And as Braun was about to spear this man through the barricade, there's Ricochet flying through the air off the barricade, I guess. And he takes out Braun Breaker. And that's how that segment ended. They wanted you to think like, oh, that's it, right? Like, oh, okay, they're not going to kill Ricochet off tonight, right? He actually had Braun Breaker scampering away through the crowd. And then in the back, he's taking the fight to him. They're fighting out into the parking lot. He's trying to stand his ground. In the end, he got killed. He got laid out. That's not a burial. And then after a commercial, they showed a replay of what happened. And they showed Samantha Irvin's reaction because she's out there doing ring announcing, but she's watching this up on the big screen. She's watching her fiance get murdered. We come back live. She's out in the parking lot with him as he's being loaded on a stretcher into the back of an ambulance. Now, he's given the thumbs up sign, so we know he's alive. But she's in tears, and she's like, I want to ride with him. And so she climbed into the back of the ambulance with him, and off they went. I thought the angle was very well done. I thought Samantha Irvin did a great job, too, just of you know, selling how devastated she was by all this. And Ricochet is leaving, and Ricochet is likely ending up in AEW, right? We don't know anything officially yet, and Tony Khan's been asked about this. He said, look, I really can't answer any questions about people who are under contract to different companies. He's not stupid. He's not going to say, oh, yeah, we've had discussions with him. Like, when he is free and clear, he will end up working in AEW. I don't know if he'll sign a full-time contract with them. I don't know if he'll go work elsewhere and just, work select dates with them. That's going to ultimately be up to Ricochet. But if he wants to make big money, he's going to make big money in WWE or AEW. So he's going to end up in AEW, I'm sure, ultimately. And we could see him and Will Ospreay as soon as Wembley Stadium this summer, going at it all in. I could see that being a match. But he has made the decision to bet on himself and leave. And I don't have a lot more to add to what I already said about him last week. I think I said my piece on Ricochet, but I will say this, when people are trying to assign blame as to who is responsible for Ricochet making the decision to step away from his dream job, who's to blame? It's Vince McMahon's fault. Well, Vince McMahon does bear some of the blame for this, but Triple H is not blameless in this entire thing. And for every Chad Gable who will re-sign with WWE and will say, It was Triple H, it was Paul Levesque, and his new way of doing things that really convinced me that it was the right move to stay. Ricochet feels otherwise, because if Ricochet felt the same way, then we would be hearing about a brand new contract that Ricochet was signing to stay with WWE. There is something about his experience there, or his experience right now, that he feels like, this is not where I need to be. I've reached my ceiling. I can't go any higher than I am now. This is not where I envision myself being at this point in my career. I need to go away. I'm not having fun, maybe, whatever. Until he tells us, we don't know what's going through his head. But if he was having the time of his life and thought that his career was on the right upward path, he would not be leaving. It does not take a rocket scientist to figure out that he is unhappy or dissatisfied about something. And even Triple H in this new era is not enough to keep him around. The fact is, Triple H has been in charge long enough by this point that if he had bigger plans for Ricochet, Ricochet would be in a better position than the one that he's in right now. I don't even think Ricochet was on the WrestleMania card this year. So even though Triple H is in charge and things are better than they were before, and there are people who are benefiting from the Paul Levesque era over the Vince McMahon era, Ricochet obviously doesn't feel as if he is on the right path. He wants the freedom and the ability to go somewhere else and to prove what he can do and to work the style that he wants to work. He's not getting that in WWE. And you have to put some of that on Triple H. Triple H it's not like he just took over the book 3 months ago. Just because they started talking at WrestleMania about this being the Paul Levesque era doesn't mean that it started at WrestleMania. It started last year. I'll even give him the fact that, 2022, when he first took over, he wasn't really fully in charge, but he took over last year. He's had enough time where we could tell the people that he likes and that he's pushing and the ones that he really doesn't see at a certain level. He's had enough time with Ricochet to do more with him, and he hasn't. Ricochet says, you know what? Peace out. I'm going to go somewhere else. So you want to blame Vince McMahon? That's fine, but you got to put some of that blame on Triple H as well for why Ricochet is walking away. And good for him. I don't know that if he goes to AEW, he's going to be in a much better spot than the one he's in now. I don't see it. He'll have some big matches. He'll get the Will Ospreay match. Maybe we'll see him working people like MJF and Darby Allin and people like that. Bryan Danielson. I mean, I don't know. Danielson doesn't have a lot of time left as a full-time performer this year, but we may see him in some big matches. Pac, right? Pac is on the roster. Can you imagine a 3-way match in AEW with Will Ospreay, Pac, and Ricochet? How fucking insane that would be. But do I see him ultimately ending up in a better spot on the roster with AEW than I do WWE? I don't. But I'm not Ricochet. He knows where he wants to be. He knows what's good for his career, and I wish him well. But he felt like he had to leave, and Triple H, being in charge, wasn't going to change that for him. So he had to go away.